It's time for the ultimate 2025 language app ranking. Recently, I started a channel on my Discord server for people to recommend apps and resources that they like to use. Many of you are posting about apps that I've never even heard about before, and that made me curious. Look, I'm skeptical of one app being the be-all end-all to get you fluent in a language, but I do believe that some apps are better than others. And so this video is an investigation to see which app is the best of all time. By the way, my goal is to learn Asian languages, so please bear that in mind. I have in total 17 apps to go through, so sit your ass down. So first we need to establish the tier list. The first tier is S tier. These are the apps that I wholeheartedly recommend and that you should get as well. For A tier, these are for apps that I think are cute or pretty useful, but I wouldn't use it like every day. B tier is like for the mid. They're not bad, but I wouldn't use it for long. C tier is bad. I will never use it again. And F tier, you guys are just trolling at this point. Let's start off with what beginners usually start off with. Someone on my Discord mentioned Duolingo because it's fun and gamifies the whole language process, which I agree with. If you want fun. Duolingo gets a lot of hate because there are some weird sentences here and there that you aren't going to use in conversation. But I think with all of the languages that Duolingo is offering, it's a very good app to practice consistency in a language. The bite-sized classes means you can practice anywhere, and the social aspects of the leaderboards motivates you because you can see how much better you are than your friends. Not going to lie, I did try and speedrun Chinese Duolingo, and I absolutely do not agree with where they placed me. Why is there so much for me to know? So I am still a bit heated. But I really like the new Duolingo features that they're pushing out. They seem to really prioritize European languages though. In French courses, for example, you get like video or audio calls to Lily, and I'm not... When is it my turn with her? Also, their heart system is kind of weird because I think for language learning, you shouldn't be punished for making mistakes. But let me know what you guys think about the heart system. I don't know, maybe it motivates you to not mess up. I think Duolingo is really great for beginners who like to dip their toes around different languages. But if you're getting into an intermediate stage, I think you should start combining other apps or study methods alongside Duolingo. I would put it in A tier. The next app is Lingodeer. So I tried Lingodeer for Japanese, and I was pleasantly surprised. So as a language learner, it's very important to learn words from context. And if your goal is to get to conversational fluency, learning from dialogue or real-life scenarios is a really great way to get there. There are also speaking exercises where you can listen to yourself following a dialogue, fill in the blank games, and review exercises if you're into that. I'm going to talk more about speaking later in this video. I don't really like using review games or like this kind of method of studying because I just pick up words naturally. I'm joking. I prefer rereading things or re-listening to podcasts. Basically, I get to see this context again and again rather than testing isolated words. And so I would group this with similar apps like Babbel or Mondly, and I'd put them in B tier. So this next one has a little bit of a controversy. Some people love it, some people absolutely despise it. Anki. So if you've never heard of it, Anki is simply a flashcard app. At first glance, you might think it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen, like it's painstakingly ordinary. But this app is for the grinders of language learning. At a certain point, you might want to exponentially increase your vocabulary, and this is between like the B1 to B2 range. And these Anki users swear by a method called spaced repetition. What is that? Good question. It's where new vocabulary gets surfaced to you at optimized intervals according to science. That's great, right? But why do so many people hate it? The thing about Anki is that it's very easy to get wrong. Like I said, learning words require context. And many people, when they create flashcards, simply just have the word and on the flip side, their translation. This has proved to be a very ineffective method. I personally tried Anki with sentences, audio, visuals, but it just took way too long to make and it wasn't very motivating to me. There are also pre-made decks, but I feel like it's also very important to make your own flashcards. However, it does seem to work for a lot of people. I would put it in B tier because it's useful, but I don't use it for myself. But the issue with beginner apps is that we all come from different backgrounds, right? So personally, I have never used beginner apps for Chinese. When I was younger, I used to speak Cantonese with my grandma, so I had a bit of a Chinese background there. So when Canto to Mando reached out to me, I thought that would be the perfect platform to share here. Canto to Mando is a course by Sheldon Ho, who you might know from the YouTube channel Canto Mando. I've always been a bit skeptical of courses, especially in the language space where everyone proclaims themselves a polyglot, but this course stood out to me specifically because it was aimed for Cantonese speakers who want to learn Mandarin. So when you first jump in, you're given a whole list of beginner all the way to advanced courses. But the platform also provides custom courses depending on your profession. I have one for physiotherapy professionals, but there are also doctor courses too. And since there are courses for any level, this means that anyone can join in. Packaged together with these lessons are also audio versions, so you can just listen on the go too. And another thing that I really like is the pronunciation sections. You can submit your pronunciation to native speakers because I know a lot of Cantonese speakers, when they speak Mandarin, there's a very thick accent. So if you're struggling with pronunciation, having this one-to-one feedback is like really important. What I find most valuable about this course is the direct connection or parallels Sheldon draws between Mandarin and Cantonese. Especially if you're a Cantonese speaker, this will speed up your progress by a lot because you won't need to waste your time learning everything from scratch from an English course. And also, a lot of Cantonese speakers may pick up bad habits when they're learning Mandarin by themselves. One of the things that tripped me up was the word xin dou. And I thought this meant like xian, but actually I got humbled in this course. There are lots of videos where they go through real life scenarios. For example, telling your family about mental health. It really speaks to the Asians, you know. And of course, along the way, you also get the classic quizzes to get your active learning. But how do I stay motivated within this course? When you first come into the course, you're given a roadmap to make sure you're on the right track, a coach to keep you accountable, and also access to communities to keep yourself motivated. If you're a Canto speaker but can't read or write Chinese well, that's also no issue at all. To make sure you're put at the right level, Sheldon has hooked you up with free level assessments where the team will listen to your Chinese and give actionable feedback. So, if you'd like to improve both your Mandarin and Cantonese, you can book a call with them using the link below. The link to the course will be in my description for you guys to check out. But on to the next app. The next few apps are all about learning a language through context. This means from anime, Netflix, movies, etc. And personally, this is one of my favorite ways to learn a language. There is a caveat though, which we'll get to in a bit. So the first app I'm recommending in this section is FluentU. FluentU is a Chrome extension that you can download where you can watch YouTube and Netflix shows with translations and acquire vocabulary naturally. What I like about FluentU is that you can save words that you don't know, and FluentU can test you on it later based on an inbuilt spaced repetition system, kind of like Anki. The video library is also very expansive, containing videos from beginner all the way to intermediate. The issue with FluentU though is it can be quite expensive. I do have a discount link for you guys in the description, but for free tier learners, it can seem like a heavy lift. Thus, I would put it in A tier. Now, a very similar platform is LingoPie. I really like LingoPie because it's basically like a mini Netflix. Like FluentU, you can rewind every sentence, practice your pronunciation, and get tested with a few games. However, the content library compared to Netflix is rather small. They are expanding it, so I'm very looking forward to that. But I must say, the Japanese content slaps. Currently, I'm watching the free-run like chibi anime on LingoPie, and because they just have my waifu, I'm gonna have to put it in a high A tier, okay? I'm not biased. The next app is a pretty small app actually, and when I was looking for it on the Play Store, it had 0 reviews. With 0 reviews, of course, I was curious. So Langturn is an app specifically for Chinese learners who want to learn native content. The UI is not the best though, and it seems like they have a lot of features, but I wouldn't say the quality is that good. For example, finding content is pretty limited and very difficult on the app. When I first started learning languages, I thought quantity of content is better than quality to get that immersion in. So I would just listen to any person who spoke Mandarin Chinese. But lately, I've been focusing my immersion on 2 to 3 creators that I like, but I watch the hell out of all of their videos. And the other creators that I watch are more to do for passive learning. Unfortunately, Langturn falls a bit flat here for finding good content. Searching for videos are rather hard, and I actually did try to read some of the Twitter posts, but the UI is just really slow because when you click on it, they take you to the website, which takes ages to load, and it's just not a nice user experience, which is a shame because this app has a lot of potential, I think. Another feature that I tested was its AI chat feature. You can choose the AI's HSK level, and it works just like any other AI like ChatGPT. The issue with AI chats in general is that conversations can can be rather surface level. They can easily fall flat if they don't have much background on you. And so actually for AI chats, I would say ChatGPT. Also, if they do text you in a word that you don't understand, there's no inbuilt feature for you to directly translate on the app. For that reason, I'd have to put this app in C tier. But the caveat, videos require you to actively sit and watch it, which is really annoying when you're on the move and you just want to get some quick immersion in. And so learning from podcasts is what I prefer doing. One such app for audio learning is called Bilingua app. I actually have never tried Bilingua before. You basically learn from audio stories and you can have the translation side by side. But I don't think I'll stick with this app for very long because the stories themselves just don't seem very interesting. They try and cater to your interests by asking you to select like the topics you're interested in, but I just still never got into them. For me, I really like long series like mangas or long-ass podcasts, because I feel like I can get more invested into the story or the creator themselves. So it might seem harsh, but I'm going to have to put this in the C tier. Next up is Link, which is developed from one of YouTube's most famous polyglots, Steve Kaufman. I was really curious to see what kind of things he'd put in this app because he has actual experience with a lot of languages. And when I went on the mobile app, I actually really liked it. You get access to pre-made playlists suited for your level, YouTube videos that I personally watch, and then even light novels like Konosuba. Like, what? Of course, this is behind a paywall, but it was nice to see the covers, you know? I think if you have the means to pay, it is very valuable. For Japanese specifically, I think there is a better app out there, but Link offers so many languages. It's a very good quality app. I actually put it in S tier. Okay, so the app that is better for Japanese readers is Satori Reader. It was recommended on my Discord and I am obsessed. At first glance, the UI is kind of weird, but it works similarly to Link. Basically, you get transcript with audio, you can read along. But where it really stands out is the explanations. I've been listening to the Yuena no Nihongo podcast, and sometimes he would say certain things that people with cultural knowledge would understand. But the editors of Satori Reader takes the time to explain it to us, while other apps might just give us a AI-generated response. And of course, there is a review section. So people who like spaced repetition, they got you. Honestly, I wish there was more content, but I understand because the explanations are really well done. So I'm gonna put this in S tier. Okay, now onto vocab-specific apps. Since I'm focusing on Chinese or Japanese, my app recommendations will also be focused on whether they help you write. Our 10th app on the list is Pleco, which is a Chinese dictionary app. And I use this every single day. It has other functionalities like flashcards, but I primarily use it just for searching up words. I also very appreciate how you can write out the character because sometimes I don't know the pinyin of a word. So if you're learning Chinese, I would definitely recommend it. And I'm going to put it in S tier. The next one is a dictionary app, but for Japanese. And it's called Shirabe Jisho. I might be butchering that, I'm sorry. This app was recommended by you guys, but I actually use a different app because it's not on the Android Play Store. I use Japanese dictionary Takaboto. I'm going to compare the two and see which is better. Shirabe gives a lot of extra pre-made decks. They have your common words, decks for slangs, decks for different subjects, and JLPT levels. But Takaboto just splits it up from N1 to N5. So for this reason, I would side with Shirabe Jisho. Both dictionaries give conjugations and example sentences, but I'd have to say Takaboto is better. Shirabe Jisho only gives you this is in the passive potential causative form. And I don't even know what that means in English, okay? I think Takaboto explains it better because they tell you what they mean by volitional or progressive form. If you have iOS, definitely download it. But if you're an Android user, you're not missing out on that much. And so I put this in A tier. Okay, Scritter. Now, a big thing that Chinese and Japanese learners struggle with is stroke order when you're writing a character or kanji. This app is for Chinese specifically, and it teaches you the stroke order as well as the tones of the characters, which is very important, okay, if you're learning Chinese. I tried the HSK5 deck recently, but again, Scritter just teaches you isolated words. Stop it. That's annoying. How do you expect me to learn a word with literally no context? But it is useful for people studying for the HSK exams. I would put this in B tier. The Japanese alternative is Kanji Study. Okay, this app actually surprised me. At first glance, you have your normal decks from elementary all the way to advanced. I thought that was it. Like all of the other apps, it would just go through the vocabulary without any context. But when I investigated a bit more, they actually include graded reader sets. So you can pick up on kanji as you read the stories. My Japanese level is so beginner and reading is a pain. Sometimes kanji can be pronounced differently depending on where it is in a sentence. They call it kunyomi and onyomi, where onyomi is based on the Chinese pronunciation. That's good for me, but I still suck. I'm not a massive fan of graded readers myself, so I don't think I would pay for it. I personally prefer reading manga to pick up the kanji. So for that reason, I'd put it in C tier. The next up is for people interested in grammar. So far, I've not really needed to learn grammar because I was brought up listening to Cantonese, so my Chinese dendrons were like kind of forming. In Chinese, vocabulary is where struggle is. But when I started Japanese, I was like, crap, I need to learn about passive potential verbs. Like, what's that? But luckily, my Discord came to help. So our 14th app is Renshu, and it's an app for learning Japanese grammar. First, can you see, it's so cute. When I first saw this, I was already so excited. I think Renshu is great if you have spare time in your day to read about grammar. But I'm not gonna lie, the content is the same as in a textbook. It is gamified, so it's a bit more fun, but you could just buy a textbook and it's like the same. Also, my approach to learning grammar is kind of like the opposite approach. I try and immerse myself, see like a grammar structure and then search up, rather than the traditional approach where grammar is taught to you and then you want to try and use it. There are also extra paid features like games. I didn't pay for it, so I have no idea what that's like. If you like grammar, I'd recommend it to you. Personally, I'm not going to find it that useful, so I'm going to put it in B tier. The next website though is a website I can see myself using like a lot. And unlike Renshu, this isn't just for Japanese. So this is called Handbook Study. It's basically a website where you can put the sentence that you want to analyze. So I tried my usual method of Google translating it, but it only gave me the general gist. On Handbook Study, they go deep, man. They tell you about the context and even the relationship a person might have. Plus, they have the key grammar points with example sentences. If they had an app, that would be like amazing. But even just as a website, S tier, S tier. And finally, when you get enough basic knowledge of a language, you want to start speaking it, right? So the first app you guys proposed was Character AI. Not even gonna lie, I did want to find an excuse to try this out. And what better character to test out than the hottest man alive, Gojo Satoru. This is how it went. Hey, 你好。
你好啊，你特地来找我有什么事吗？
哦，没有什么事，我就要跟你讲。
啊，这样吗？好吧，那就聊天吧。你从哪里来呢？
哦，你以为我从哪里来？
Why? Because your Chinese is poor or something?
Excuse me? 你说什么？
You can use English if you want. Nisso é o quê a propósito?
那是什么？我是中国人。
你为什么会来找我？
为什么你这么self-obsessed？
我只是好奇你为何找我聊天。你会找我聊天一定有什么原因吧？
这是我最一次打电话。
你到底在讲什么？你到底要不要讲清楚啊？
我讲得很清楚。你是真的吗？
我是人啊，到底你问这些问题有什么意义啊？
证明你是一个人。
什么？你是不是在跟我开玩笑啊？
不是，我的中文那么差吗？
哈哈，没事，你的中文还可以的，只是有时候我不太懂你在说什么。
那是你的问题。From watching Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo is meant to be like a laid-back, playful guy, but why did I only get sass? I get it, alright. You guys voted for him because we love arrogant, self-obsessed men in anime. Guys, it's toxic otherwise, okay? But it meant the conversation went absolutely nowhere. Also, he had the audacity to pick out my Chinese, so he belongs in F tier. I'm sorry, absolute F tier. But an actual good speaking platform, I told you it's a platform where you get one-on-one lessons with a language tutor, and you can practice speaking. There are many similar platforms like Preply I've heard of, but I've never tried that out myself. I really like italki. You have to pay for lessons, but the teachers are very good quality on the website. Many teachers offer trial lessons that are discounted, so you can definitely give that a shot too. I'm currently using italki to practice Japanese. Having this personalized time with a native speaker can really boost your language learning. I used to think I could just learn a language on my own or start speaking only once I get to a certain level, but I think you should start speaking kind of early. I know a lot of people are like, learn like a baby. you have a silent period and then you start speaking. Babies are yapping straight out of the womb. You just don't understand them. Anyways, I'm not saying you have to go directly to a native Japanese person and speak your broken Japanese. Just try sounding out the words or speaking to yourself or recording yourself. I really like the italki platform and I would put this in the S tier. So that's it. That's so long. I've been recording for like nearly an hour. That's 17 apps and overall I think they're very good. So thanks for all of the recommendations on the server. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree, or you have any other apps you want to shout out in the comment section. Oh, if you'd also like to join the Language Struggle Gang, then feel free to join our Discord group in the description and pop in and say hi. As always, thank you for watching and I shall see you in the next one.